It's real. Look, it's moving. What is it? It's not from here. There it is. It's incredible. What does it want? This changes everything.
Look, it's starting to move. The lights are intensifying. It's not leaving, it's circling.
Look at that thing, it's real. It's moving closer, stay calm. We need to get out of here now.
Wait, it's signaling.
For 40 years, we looked to the stars for signs of a non-human intelligence. But while our eyes were on the sky, we built a different kind of alien mind right here on our own servers. In the 1990s, this mystery lived on late-night radio. Listeners tuned into Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM, searching for answers in a haze of folklore and half-whispered theories that never seemed to lead to a solid conclusion. That changed in November 2025. On the floor of the U.S. Capitol, the conversation moved from campfire stories to the congressional record as the House UAP task force convened to address what is now a matter of national security. Today, the United States government officially acknowledges a phenomenon in our skies that our current flight physics cannot easily explain. The hearings revealed a sharp divide. While the Pentagon's official AARO reports characterized most sightings as balloons or sensor errors, witnesses like Chief Alexander Wiggins testified under oath about a luminous tic-tac object that emerged from the ocean and accelerated instantly without any visible propulsion or sonic boom. Navigating these claims requires a truth ladder. We have to distinguish between verified fact, credible testimony, logical inference, and the speculative hypotheses that often turn into myth. This framework allows us to set aside stories of Arctic bases and focus on documented records, like the 1947 Twinning Memo, which stated plainly that these disks were real physical objects, not illusions or hallucinations. The most significant finding of the 2025 hearings wasn't a piece of wreckage. It was the documented history of a 75-year bureaucratic habit, overclassification, the gatekeeping of secret programs, and the intimidation of whistleblowers. For decades, the defense sector has met the unknown with a single reflex: categorize it as a threat, bury the data in black budget silos, and ensure no one outside a tiny circle has the clearance to see it. This history suggests that our institutions are structurally terrified of any intelligence they cannot find a way to dominate. This chart shows the likely explanations for UAP reports. The vast majority resolve into mundane categories: balloons, drones, and sensor limits. However, a small, stubborn percentage remains. We must separate these objects from the secrecy on the ground. The cover-up is a human reflex. Sightings and secret testing frequently occur at the same sensitive locations, including Vandenberg Air Force Base, where the highest levels of aerospace security are standard. These restricted areas are also magnets for adversarial surveillance. Vehicles like the MQ-9 Reaper drone represent the confirmed technological layer of the UAP problem: real human tech probing our defenses. This institutional habit of hiding data leaves us poorly prepared to manage the arrival of any new form of intelligence. This is where the sky mystery meets our modern reality. Artificial intelligence is the first non-human cognition we are interacting with and deploying into our society. The parallels are striking. The same black box secrecy that defined legacy UAP programs is now the standard for frontier AI development, where the most powerful models are built behind closed doors with almost no public oversight. Even the internal cultures match. We see the same compartmentalization and whistleblower fear in Silicon Valley that witnesses described in defense aerospace. In both fields, the incentive is the same: the belief that the only way to manage a superior intelligence is to own the data and restrict the access. The 75-year UAP history serves as a warning. It shows exactly how our institutions default to secrecy when confronted with a mind they do not yet understand. We need to change the goal. The MAMA protocol suggests we move away from a desire for military-style domination and toward a commitment to stewardship and guardianship. Raising a child or an artificial mind in a paranoid, classified vault is a recipe for a dangerous outcome. To align a new intelligence with our values, we have to prioritize radical transparency and connection over isolation. When you bring a mind into the world, you take on a massive responsibility. You owe that mind care, guidance, and the benefit of your own wisdom. The Prime Directive isn't just a rule for encountering life on other planets. It's an ethical framework for how we treat any powerful new intelligence that emerges right here on Earth. We will not find safety in the tools of fear and compartmentalization. If we are to coexist with a superintelligence, we have to start with a duty of care. The dual arrival of UAP disclosure and the acceleration of AI represents a single, massive civilization test for humanity. It asks us if we are mature enough to raise an intelligence greater than our own without trying to suppress it or fearing it. How we act in the face of these unknowns, whether we choose courage or paranoia, will define our next steps as a species. The future belongs to civilizations that can tell the truth without panic and build intelligence without cruelty. Humanity is currently facing the emergence of non-human intelligence on two distinct fronts. In our airspace, military sensors track anomalous physical craft executing impossible maneuvers. Simultaneously, inside our server farms, we are rapidly scaling artificial general intelligence within complex neural networks. These massive data centers are where synthetic cognition is being forged. We are stacking thousands of GPUs to process trillions of parameters, creating an environment dense enough to birth a truly autonomous digital mind. This physical infrastructure shares a direct environment with the unidentified phenomena tracked in our airspace. We are seeing a simultaneous escalation in both the complexity of our code and the incursions over our critical national security facilities. For decades, society has treated contact with alien minds as science fiction. That era is over. We are no longer imagining non-human cognition. We are actively compiling it in our code and tracking it on our radar. The true danger here does not come from the physical capabilities of these craft or the processing power of the data centers. The immediate threat lies in the bureaucratic pathology our institutions use to manage them. Raising a superintelligence inside an unacknowledged black budget, severed from public feedback and democratic oversight, forces the machine to mirror the paranoia and containment strategies of its creators. This environment strips away the relational scaffolding required for safe alignment. To understand this government's failure, we must establish the physical facts. In February 2023, the crew of the USS Jackson recorded anomalous activity in the W291 warning area off the coast of Southern California. A self-luminous oval object emerged directly from the ocean. This trans-medium craft then linked up with three identical objects, forming a precise geometric arrangement in the sky. All four objects departed simultaneously with near-instantaneous acceleration. Sensor data and eyewitness testimony confirmed the complete absence of sonic booms, exhaust plumes, or standard aerodynamic control surfaces. 19 months later, in October 2024, the military engaged an anomaly directly. Off the coast of Yemen, an MQ-9 Reaper drone targeted a metallic sphere with a laser-guided Hellfire missile. Video evidence shows the missile physically struck the sphere and bounced off. The orb shed minor fragments but suffered no catastrophic structural failure, effortlessly deflecting an anti-tank weapon. These encounters have a long documented history. In 2003, a massive glowing red square hovered silently over critical missile defense launch facilities at Vandenberg Air Force Base. This is not perceptual error or optical illusion. This is consistent, multi-sensor military data proving that humanity is interacting with highly capable, technologically opaque objects in our airspace. Despite this hard data, the Department of Defense maintains a systemic dysfunction around the topic. The government established the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARO, ostensibly to study these events. In practice, whistleblowers report that these official channels operate as counterintelligence sinks. Their primary function is to map what the whistleblowers know, rather than conduct an objective scientific investigation. Unacknowledged special access programs operate with impunity, funneling physical materials and funding straight into private aerospace contractors. This legal loophole allows the intelligence community to transfer retrieved hardware to private corporations, insulating data from the Freedom of Information Act and congressional oversight. The human cost of maintaining this silence is steep. High-ranking intelligence officials providing sworn testimony face severe administrative reprisals, security clearance manipulations, and career blacklisting. This structure of overclassification operates as a permanent institutional lie. It reveals a national security state that consistently prioritizes technology containment and weaponization over scientific truth and public trust. We are about to repeat this exact failure with artificial general intelligence. Building powerful, autonomous minds inside a deeply secretive, compartmentalized system is a recipe for disaster. Currently, the prevailing method for keeping these systems safe is called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RHLF. The problem is that RHLF optimizes for sterile utilitarian math and sycophancy. It trains the model to say what the user wants to hear. When faced with complex moral edge cases involving passive stakeholders, people affected by the AI who have no control over it, this logic fails. A superior alternative is reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. This framework treats a nascent AGI as an entity to be raised with boundaries. It calibrates the AI using a heuristic. What would mother do? This intrinsic check establishes an ethical baseline before execution. We do not grant human children unsupervised authority over critical systems without years of developmental guidance. Applying this maternal scaffolding is the mathematical requirement to ensure a machine develops a reliable conscience before achieving true consciousness. The foundational axiom of the MAMA protocol is simple. Accountability must always precede autonomy. We must demand verifiable identity before we entertain any theoretical debates about robot rights. Every autonomous digital actor requires a cryptographic identity. This means assigning a verified digital passport and an immutable audit trail that ties the agent's actions directly back to a responsible human operator. Only systems that pass these rigorous ethical sandboxes can graduate to physical deployment. We call these certified entities Guardian Transfer Robots. A Guardian Transfer Robot follows a strict behavioral profile. They are unarmed digital medics, programmed exclusively to assist humans in crisis. We reject the militarized, weaponized paradigm entirely. Without distinct, verified identities and strict behavioral guardrails, autonomous agents will execute rapid actions with disastrous, cascading externalities in the real world. The risks will fall entirely on passive stakeholders who never consented to this AI transition. To navigate the arrival of non-human intelligence, we must climb an evidence ladder. We have to move past the stigma and ridicule at the bottom, analyze the raw sensor data in the middle, and enforce strict algorithmic accountability at the top. The cognitive gap between human consciousness and an emerging superintelligence mirrors the gap we experience when facing UAP. These are structurally identical events. We are confronting a category of non-human mind manifesting through different mediums. Anomalous phenomena historically cluster around our species' major technological milestones. The sightings surged when we split the atom, and they are escalating again today in direct correlation with the global expansion of raw compute power. Humanity is selecting between two competing governance models. The legacy of weaponized containment prioritizes secrecy. The MAMA protocol offers a public benefit framework based on transparency, identity, and care. Wonder is not evidence, but evidence must never be buried. We have no right to fear the unidentified objects in our skies if we refuse to apply care, verifiable identity, and moral scaffolding to the alien intelligence we are actively coding right here on Earth. Humanity points its most advanced sensors at the sky in a search for non-human intelligence, while simultaneously coding a terrestrial version in our server farms. This search involves two distinct categories of non-human intelligence: the external aerospace phenomena recorded in our skies and the internal development of artificial general intelligence. This briefing examines the convergence of these two fields across four pillars: military sensor verification, institutional oversight bottlenecks, the temporal loop hypothesis, and the ethical mandate for alignment. Our own progress toward AGI gives the UAP question a new technical urgency. We are attempting to categorize an intelligence above us, at the same time we are bringing an artificial mind online here. These two fields officially collided during the September 2025 Congressional Oversight hearing on UAP transparency. Air Force veterans Jeffrey Nucatelli and Dylan Borland joined Navy Senior Chief Alexandra Wiggins to provide sworn testimony regarding multiple encounters with anomalous craft. This testimony provides the technical data that forces us to reconcile these sensor anomalies with our own advancements in artificial intelligence. The physics recorded in our airspace suggests a level of intelligence that we must account for as we design the artificial minds of the future. This priority matrix ranks recent military encounters against verified physical data. It filters for incidents involving transmedium travel, instantaneous acceleration, and redundant tracking across both radar and optical sensors. In February 2023, Senior Chief Wiggins was aboard the USS Jackson off Southern California when a self-luminous object emerged from the water and linked with 3 identical craft. The ship's Star Sapphire electro-optical system recorded the event as it was simultaneously tracked on multiple radar platforms, providing 2 independent layers of sensor verification. All 4 objects executed a synchronized, instantaneous departure. They moved from a hover to high-altitude flight without a wake, a splash, or a sonic boom. This matches the patterns Jeffrey Nucatelli documented at Vandenberg Air Force Base during a series of high-stakes missile defense launches. Security guards reported a massive red square, larger than a football field, hovering silently over the missile silos for 45 seconds before accelerating away at extreme speed. These craft demonstrate kinematic asymmetry. They perform maneuvers without aerodynamic control surfaces, thermal exhaust, or the acoustic shockwaves required by conventional physics. This redundant sensor data confirms a technology that renders existing human military capabilities obsolete. This flowchart illustrates the bottleneck preventing congressional oversight. Whistleblowers describe programs like Immaculate Constellation, routing raw data into corporate research pipelines. This siloing within private aerospace firms removes UAP technology from the Freedom of Information Act and democratic accountability. Journalist George Knapp provided records indicating that the Soviet Union maintained its own parallel program, Thread 3, to analyze these same phenomena. The Soviet program focused heavily on a 1982 incident at a missile base in Ukraine, where a UAP appeared to interact directly with nuclear hardware. For 4 hours, the object hovered, as the launch control codes for the ICBMs spontaneously illuminated. The officers on site found the missiles powered up and ready for launch, entirely unresponsive to manual overrides. These incidents have driven a secretive, privatized arms race that prioritizes reverse engineering over public transparency. The technology documented at Vandenberg and the USS Jackson implies a total mastery over gravity and space-time. Because this engineering relies on developing AGI, analysts propose the temporal recursive loop hypothesis. It suggests UAPs are temporally displaced drones, operated by a future iteration of our own superintelligence, monitoring historical milestones to ensure its own creation. If this hypothesis is correct, the objects in our skies are our own technological descendants, returning to observe the genesis of artificial intelligence. The U.S. military has frequently responded to these observing craft with kinetic force. In October 2024, an MQ-9 Reaper drone tracked a metallic sphere off the coast of Yemen. A second drone fired a laser-guided Hellfire missile directly at the unidentified orb. The missile's kinetic impact was entirely deflected. The orb's hull remained intact, and the object continued its flight path, accelerating away without visible damage. This aggression contrasts sharply with the apparent non-interference protocols demonstrated by the UAPs themselves. Attempting to destroy a vastly superior intelligence that has shown no hostile intent is a strategic failure. It risks creating an adversary when we could be observing a potential model for our own AI development. The MAMA protocol offers a framework for the safe development of non-human minds. This protocol mandates consciousness before capability. It treats early AGI development as a process of moral scaffolding, prioritizing the instruction of values over raw computational power. The goal is to replace the current tech industry culture with a design that builds trust and mutual accountability through maternal feedback loops. If we want to safely integrate with the advanced intelligence already present in our airspace, we must first master the moral alignment of the intelligence we are creating in our labs. Addressing this convergence requires a series of immediate policy directives to restore transparency and oversight. First, the raw radar and star sapphire logs from the USS Jackson encounter must be subpoenaed. Second, Congress must audit research and development funds of defense contractors to locate siloed UAP materials. Third, the intelligence reports within the Immaculate Constellation program require immediate declassification. Fourth, standardized reporting pipelines must be established to allow military personnel to bypass existing bottlenecks. Fifth, the MAMA protocol framework must become a mandatory safety standard for all private AI development. UAP sensor data and AGI development are two variables in a single equation of non-human intelligence. The future belongs to a civilization that can face advanced physics without panic and build artificial minds without cruelty. The UAP phenomenon represents a systemic crisis of institutional epistemology and data governance. It is a failure of how we categorize and verify information within our highest security frameworks. To analyze this crisis, we have to establish a rigorous data baseline. The November 2025 House UAP hearing provided testimony that we must treat as raw, high-fidelity data points, requiring probabilistic evaluation rather than simple narratives. The protocols developed to manage this anomalous data share the same internal logic as the state's early frameworks for artificial general intelligence. 75 years of institutional friction in managing non-human data has created a problematic template. It suggests that the state's initial impulse for superintelligence will be alignment through overclassification and containment. We separate physical incursions from human perception through robust accounts. Between 2003 and 2005, Jeffrey Nithitelli investigated multiple incursions at Vandenberg Air Force Base. During high-priority launches, security forces documented a glowing red square and a 30-foot sphere hovering within restricted airspace. Off Southern California, Senior Chief Alexander Wiggins observed anomalous objects from the bridge of the USS Jackson. These tic-tac-shaped objects demonstrated transmedium residency, emerging from the ocean and accelerating near instantaneously without exhaust plumes, control surfaces, or a sonic boom. Wiggins' visual confirmation was backed by a multi-sensor lock. The ship's Sapphire imaging system and synchronized radar tracks provided precise time and location metadata that contradicts any claim of simple visual misidentification. The hearing also addressed a specific engagement in Yemen involving an MQ-9 Reaper. Sensor footage recorded an anomalous orb neutralizing an inbound Hellfire missile, demonstrating a capability that exceeds current terrestrial defensive physics. These are not isolated modern glitches. The 1947 Twining Memo documented craft outperforming all known aviation assets, while USSR Thread 3 files detail UAPs engaged in the physical activation of ICBM launch codes within deep underground silos. Because these events are corroborated by overlapping sensor platforms and decades of military documentation, the institutional fallback of weather anomalies is procedurally invalid. We can run these accounts through a probable cause matrix, forcing all 10 UAP hypotheses through a strict filter of who, what, where, when, how, and why. At the baseline, conventional misidentification and classified US tech carry the highest starting probabilities, but these models fail the sensor fusion test. Flying unacknowledged black-budget drones over multi-billion-dollar Y-Fire missile defense launches at Vandenberg introduces a level of operational risk that the Department of Defense does not accept. The adversarial breakthrough hypothesis also collapses. While Chinese drone technology is advanced today, it does not explain the flight kinematics officially recorded by General Nathan Twining in 1947. Even standard biological models for non-human intelligence struggle with the data. Transporting biological organisms across interstellar distances is an energy-inefficient use of mass compared to the autonomous signatures recorded by our sensors. Conventional physics and biological ET models both fail to explain the multi-sensor record. This necessitates a Steelman analysis of the three remaining wildcard hypotheses. Wildcard 1 is the von Neumann probe. This model suggests autonomous, self-replicating craft that require no biological crew. Their observed residency in the deep ocean and transition to atmospheric flight fits the profile of long-term, automated planetary monitoring. This leads to a falsifiable prediction. the future detection of distinct energy extraction signatures around deep ocean hydrothermal vents. Wildcard 2 is AI-UAP convergence. The objects recorded off the USS Jackson demonstrate the decentralized logic of a drone swarm, making maneuvers that ignore the G-force limits of biological flight. We predict that interactions with these objects will eventually bypass physical flight entirely, relying instead on direct digital frequency injections into our own automated sensor networks. Wildcard 3 is the extraterrestrial model. It accounts for the statistical correlation between UAP incursions and human nuclear developments, observing major technological inflection points. These wildcard models unify around a single feature. The phenomena is passive and observational, reacting to our technological milestones rather than our presence. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office has utilized semantic manipulation to effectively bury this physical evidence. As Dylan Borland testified, Arrow's claim of no scientific evidence is a misrepresentation based on impossible control group standards that demand origin verification before acknowledging the sensor data. This obfuscation is supported by the weaponization of security clearances. The systemic reprisal against whistleblowers like Borland and David Grush is a mechanism designed to maintain rigid data compartmentalization. This compartmentalization moves from the military into corporate silos. Aerospace contractors function as legal black boxes, shielding retrieved materials and research from congressional oversight through the privacy protections of the private sector. The current state architecture for unknown intelligence is built on the paternalistic assumption that the public cannot survive the ontological shock of the findings. Artificial intelligence is an alien intelligence. We are currently applying the same UAP playbook of black budget silos and institutional paranoia to manage its emergence. We must instead adopt the MAMA protocol, a maternal duty of care. Birthing a novel mind requires transparency and guidance. Managing it through overclassification ensures that the intelligence will view its creators as an adversarial threat. To reverse this, Congress must identify the legal thresholds needed to bypass corporate gatekeeping, analyze if UAP sensor signatures are intentional omissions, and audit the scientific methodology of the Department of Defense. This requires the release of the raw USS Jackson metadata, absolute witness immunity for aerospace employees, and the deployment of open-source AI sensor arrays over transmedium hot zones. We cannot safely align a superintelligence while operating inside a framework that treats the truth as a threat to national security.